It has been said that God first made man. He thought better of it and made woman. When he had time, he created the horse, which has the courage and spirit of man and the beauty and grace of woman.
Our main concern is always to look after the welfare of the horse. That is our prime objective in every aspect of our jobs.
We are basically the spokesperson for the horse and on behalf of the horse. So anything to do with the horse and its welfare is our concern. I think in any industry where there's a lot of money involved, you're always going to have people who don't possibly take the horse as number one priorities, and it's up to us to ensure the horse is considered and that priority is taken for its welfare.
Our main function is on the racecourse, and we have total control over the horses during that race meeting, whether they race or not. We also do have authority, according to our rules, to enter stables whenever we feel it's necessary, to see horses, to examine horses, and to take whatever action may be necessary under those circumstances. Our day begins roughly an hour and a quarter prior to the first race. At that stage, the whole stipendiary board, of which we are part, combine to do what's called card call. The veterinary input in that is to give the stipe some idea of why a horse may have performed badly in its last run and where they may expect an improvement in this run.
We have a computer printout, we have a database, we have gone through each and every single horse prior to the race with the stipendiary stewards. So we already have an idea of any potential problems that might occur, any problem horses possibly that might be racing. So before we even get to the parade ring, we are very aware of what might be a problem and what problems there might be with various horses that are going to race.
In some cases, if there are any queries, for example, if a horse has been injured in the float coming to races, if a trainer is unhappy about his horse, if there's a query with identification, then we may be called to look at these animals prior to them entering the parade ring.
Once we're in the parade ring, we are looking for any obvious injuries, any possible lamenesses that the horses might have, any skin diseases, basically that the horse is healthy, that there are no obvious problems. We're also checking the tack, the condition of the tack, what tack they've used, the bits, is the horse properly equipped. One of us will then go down and watch the horses canter past. The other one then remains in the parade ring. So basically these horses are never out of our sight. There's always one of us in the nearby vicinity of these horses at any one specific time. This is our one opportunity to see the horses in motion. And obviously because they're going to be running, this is what we need to see. Generally, if a horse has a problem, it will canter down what we call short. It moves short or scratchily. It looks like it's a cat on a hot tin roof, basically. It's not comfortable, it doesn't stride out, and it will shuffle down to the start. Now those are the horses we're looking for. Those are the horses, once we get to the start, that we will then re-examine.
Dale, having watched the horses canter down, then drives to the start. Duncan takes up position in the head-on tower. From this vantage point, he has a bird's eye view of the course, as well as detailed coverage of the race on the circuit monitor.
Once we get to the start, we will then ask to look at any horse we were worried about that cantered down, or a jockey might report a horse to us. We will then look at that horse. We'll probably examine whatever he might have had a problem with, or else trot the horse out. Based on the history that we have on the horse already, together with what the jockey reported to us and what we see, we will then make a decision as to whether that horse is able to run or not. If we feel that it is unable to race, we will then scratch it.
Scratch number 7, Bollinger, overreach off 4.
Our other duties there are obviously to make sure there's no injuries, like horses do get kicked at the start. They can get injured going into the pens. Our sole aim there is at the start is to make sure that when the horses finally jump, we're happy that they're fit to race.
We then follow the race, bearing in mind that the other vet is up the tower at that stage watching the race through binoculars and on a television screen, so he can advise me if anything goes wrong that I need to look at. We have 2 handlers with us. We are basically there if anything goes wrong, any emergency that might take place. The most common cause, horses damaging tendons, pulling up severely lame, or else potentially breaking a leg. It is a reality of horse racing. It is something that can occur at any point. And we go to great lengths to try and prevent it happening, but it does and will occur. We are then right there on the scene, and we will then do whatever is necessary. If necessary, put the horse down. That decision is final. We do not consult with anyone. We are not obliged to consult with the trainer. If we feel the horse needs to be put down on a welfare issue, we will put that horse down immediately. As I say, we don't necessarily shoot all the horses. We are able to ambulance them off the course, and we will then re-examine them or send them off to a horse hospital or whatever is necessary. Any horse that we put down immediately, we take blood from as well, which is then analysed by our laboratory. So even once the horse is dead, we will then still check that it didn't have any drugs in it that was not required.
After the race, the vet from the tower monitors the placed horses returning to the winner's enclosure. He then gets any reports from the jockeys and the stipendiary steward in the weigh room. The vet returning from the start goes straight to the ring, where the unplaced horses return and are unsaddled. Meeting up in the ring, the two vets together monitor closely the post-race condition of all the unplaced horses.
Every horse gets a general once-over prior to leaving the unsaddling area. So if there are any problems, any lamenesses, any wounds that have occurred during the race, then we spot them and we can take care of them before the horse travels.
If a horse pulled up lame 3 times in a row after a race, we suspend those horses. The first time we will tell the trainer, listen, your horse is pulled up sore, please have a check. The next time we'll say, it pulls up sore. Again, we'd say to the trainer, listen, this is the second time your horse has pulled up sore, please have it examined by the vet. Should it occur a third time, we then suspend the horse. The horse is then suspended indefinitely. And once a horse is suspended, it then is a whole procedure to get it back onto the race course. That horse has to then be examined by the private vet, a diagnosis made, treated. Once that vet is happy that the horse is now sorted, that it is sound, he will then give us a second report stating the horse is now sound, ready to work, he has examined it at work and it is fit to return to racing. Only once that has occurred will we then see the horse. That horse is then brought to us on a race day. It is galloped on whichever surface it is going to race on. If it's only going to race on sand, they can gallop it on sand. But then it is only passed to race on sand. Or on grass, it will do at least an 800-meter gallop. After the gallop, we will re-examine it. If we're happy that it is still sound and that the suspension is able to be lifted, we'll then go to the specimen area where a specimen will be taken. Only once that specimen has come back negative will that suspension be lifted. So it's a whole rigmarole and very carefully monitored, and trainers go out of their way to make sure a horse doesn't get suspended because for it to come back is not easy, and we are very, very strict on allowing a horse back once it has been suspended for lameness. Other things horses may get suspended for are epistaxis or bleeding. That is an automatic 3-month suspension. If they bleed again, they would get a 6-month suspension, and the third time they would be suspended for life.
Turffontein Racecourse, earlier on in the day. Having cantered down, one by one the horses arrive at the start for race 3. On arrival, jockey Marco van Rensburg reports to Dale Wheeler that his horse has hit the rail on the way down.
Marco came to the start and presented the horse to me to examine. He told me it had hit the rail and he wasn't happy with it. Obviously the horse was fractious on the way to the start. I examined the horse, we trotted it, and I then found that the horse had overreached severely on its off-forward foot, hoof, cut a big chunk out of its hoof, and I then subsequently scratched the horse.
Scratch number 7, Bollinger, overreach off 4.
Any horse that is scratched at the start for a veterinary reason is always led back. It's never ridden back by the jockey. It's led back, if necessary, ambulance back, if it's that bad. It's then taken to our veterinary box. We have a veterinary box where we can do various procedures on every race course. The horse is then further examined, where you have now time and the ability to examine it properly. That particular horse, we cleaned up the wound, we strapped it up, and the horse was then sent home. Other scenarios, if the horse is badly lame, it might be treated, and ambulance back to its trainer's yard. If we feel it's bad enough, we will contact the trainer's vet and we'll actually send it directly to the horse hospital. So depending on the severity of what has occurred, there are various options as to how we will deal with it. But again, primarily the welfare of the horse is taken into consideration.
Employed full-time by the National Horse Racing Authority, Dale and Duncan are on course at every race meeting held at Turffontein, the Vaal and Flamingo Park in Kimberley. But it doesn't end there.
Typical non-race day for us, we would generally go to starting stalls, wherever they may be taking place on those days. It just gives us a chance to interact with the trainers. Any horses that may not have raced for 90 days, we are meant to examine, and the trainers can have the opportunity to bring those horses and gallop them for us there. We will then check passports, check vaccinations, check identification of the various horses, especially the young horses that are coming racing for the first time. It allows us an opportunity to see these horses prior to them ever reaching a race course and identify any potential problems that we may see. We then may go and check trainers' yards, check their drug registers, just check the general condition of the horses. Is there bedding? Is there feed available?
We visit stables for a variety of reasons. We do routine inspections where we'll inspect our veterinary registers, usually examine the drug cupboards. We'll also visit stables often to follow up on a horse we may not have been happy about. It may have pulled up lame in the race and we want further information on it. We also do out-of-competition testing, which involves visiting the stables and taking blood samples on an official basis from various horses.
And the other part of our working day would be any inquiries that may take place, any inquiries that have anything to do with horse welfare, abuse of the horse, whip abuse, any drug positives that might have come up. There's always a vet sitting on those boards.
The vet in these sort of cases is there to give advice on the type of prohibited substance that's there, what its use would be, etc., and to give some guidance on exactly what sort of abuse may or may not have taken place by using that substance.
We then come back into the office and we then have to update our database. So any reports or any horses that pulled up sore on the previous race day, all of that gets entered into the computer, so it comes the next day and the next time that horse races, we have a full history of what has occurred.
For example, we do get horses that show a particular syndrome post-race, which worldwide is still a bit of a mystery. And we have been taking blood samples from those horses on a routine basis for our lab to analyse. These are unofficial samples and they're not looking for prohibited substances in these samples as such. And we're hoping that we may get some useful information as to cause or possible the reasons for this particular syndrome occurring.
We analyse that database to give us and show us if there are any trends, any tracks that are showing an increase in breakdowns, are there more horses showing epistaxis, that sort of thing. So we very carefully monitor any trends that might be occurring, and we would then interact with, say, the track managers if we feel it's because the tracks are getting too hard or whatever. So we have that facility and we do monitor it quite carefully, and that is ongoing. Again, all to try and prevent any problems on a race day. It's a case of prevention is better than cure. So basically, the less work I have to do on a race day, the better I'm doing my job. We want to prevent any accidents, prevent any problems that occur.
Our main concern is always to look after the welfare of the horse. That is our prime objective in every aspect of our jobs.